Welcome to the Winden Caves. My name's Bubba, and with me, as always, is...
Tiny!
Tiny, we're going deeper into the caves, through the tunnel, into Dark on Netflix, Season 2, and we're going to be talking about the first 2 episodes.
Well, I'm excited, Bubba. We are watching these together. So the first series did the rewatch with me watching it for the first time, but this time... we are watching this jointly, so it's going to be exciting to see you as surprised as me as we move along.
That's true. There won't be a spoiler section anymore, listeners, because we've only seen the first 2 episodes. If you haven't seen the first season of Dark and the first 2 episodes of Season 2, please drop out now, pause the podcast, watch them, and then come back and enjoy it. We here at the Winden Caves podcast, we are trying to build a community. And so what we've decided to do to our double L's...
What's a double L?
A loyal listener. We are inducting our double L loyal listeners into the Time Traveler Club. If you're out there helping us promote Winden Caves podcast, you'll be enlisted into the Time Traveler group.
Is that the Double T Club?
Double T?
Time Traveler Club, Bubba.
Oh, okay, that's exactly right. The Double T members... And here, we're going to name our first 4 members of the Double T Time Traveler Club. Number 1 is at Haughty Marauder.
What's up, Haughty Marauder? Hannah Hater in the house.
We also have at Endless Mike03 on Twitter.
Okay, and we also have Peter Connolly at Baga 2007.
Peter hosts the great The Missing Bike podcast.
And Amy, welcome to Time Travel at Amy Home Alone.
So, how can you join the Double T Club? We need you to go out there and promote this show. We're just 2 people sitting in a dark cave podcasting about this great German show from Germany on Netflix entitled Dark. So if you can go to social media, tell your friends, we want everybody to join us in this time-traveling show. We are part of Double P Media. You can talk to us at Double PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/Double PHQ, the word double, the single letter P, and then the letters HQ for headquarters at Double PHQ. And I want to point out that we are starting a new podcast about a show that's premiering on Starz based on a very popular book entitled The Rook. And you can go to Apple Podcasts, go to Stitcher Podcasts, anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, and just search for Double P Podcast. You'll be part of us. Now, Tiny, Dark has been renewed for Season 3, which is going to be the final season of the show, and they're filming it right now.
So, Bubba, I guess that means that I shouldn't expect a lot of tie-ups at the end of Season 2.
We are expecting the expected in that it's not going to wrap up anything. But later on in this podcast, when we describe the first 2 episodes of Season 2, I think we're going to know exactly what time of year Dark Season 3 will take place, and I'll tell you my theory as we get to it. Now, again, because we're watching this together, Tiny, there isn't going to be a spoiler section. So in honor of Dark, this great show we've been enjoying, to replace the spoiler section, I've decided to replace it with a new segment entitled Shocking Family Reveal. Dun, dun, dun.
Bum, bum, bum.
Tiny, I have to tell you a terrible, terrible secret. You're my sister!
Dun, dun, dun!
That's right. Tiny, you're my younger sister. I'm the Magnus to your Martha.
Or I'm the aunt to your... No, I have no idea. Well, that's a bad example, maybe.
Yeah, terrible.
Cut that. Cut that.
So each week here on Season 2, without a spoiler section, we'll be having a special Shocking Family Reveal section of the Winden Caves podcast. Before we get to talking about these first 2 episodes and your feedback we've received so far, Tiny, I want to ask a fundamental question about Dark Season 2. And probably we should have been asking it during the first season, in that Jonas the stranger version of Jonas, Ulrich, Claudia, people keep trying to change the past, but when we see them attempt to change the past, it's possible they're creating the past they want to destroy. For example, Ulrich smashing young Helgi's head with a rock, that could possibly have caused Helgi's problems, which lead him to be brainwashed by Noah into kidnapping all those children in the first place. So can time be changed?
I have been round and round on this. Like, why is Claudia going to tell younger Claudia and then saying it's older Claudia? I remember us having this conversation. So she's telling her that while she's having the conversation. I really don't understand how the older people process the things that have happened that they have meddled in.
Tiny, that's a great point, but I asked you a yes or no question. Can Jonas or anyone actually change the past?
Bubba, I've got no freaking idea on this. Let's be honest. I'm going to say, back to what I said before, where the stranger, a.k.a. old Jonas, told Jonas, the younger Jonas, that every choice for something is a choice against something. And that's probably my favorite line from the whole series, and something I keep thinking about as people are jumping between these 33-year thresholds.
So far, there's been nothing to show us that time can be changed. But because this is Season 2 and we need our own twist in Season 2, not only am I going to say I think time can be changed, I'm going to say my dream scenario based on these first 2 episodes, who I should say, changes time. And that is that one of my favorite characters, even though we both have trouble remembering his name, is Egon from 1986. He just found out that he's got some sort of disease, we assume cancer, and doesn't have long to live. I would love it if Egon, who Ulrich may dislike, but I have grown to like, I would love it if somehow he does something. We've seen him investigating the crimes of the past. It would be great if he could somehow solve something and changed it.
Egon, again, is one of really the only earnest characters that we have. He seems to mean well, even if he doesn't carry forward always in the right direction.
Let's get to your Double L loyal listener feedback. I'm going to go to this first one because it ties back to our big debate in Season 1 of who is Noah. This is from, me Insignia at FENIXY2 on Twitter. They write, Magnus is Noah because his sister is Martha and her son is Jonas's son. Uggity, uggity, uggity. Does that make any sense to you?
I need to tree this out on paper, but it makes 0 sense to me. I'm sorry to say. Not that it's not correct, but I'm just the co-host here.
If I had watched Season 1, I pointed out that was one of the possibilities. I would say that now that we're into Season 2, the first 2 episodes of Season 2, where we see an actual younger Noah, I would think this has got to fly by the wayside, and it doesn't seem possible anymore that either Bartosz or Magnus is Noah at an earlier stage in their life.
I would agree with that. I concur.
We got another bit of feedback from a Double T member, Endless Mike, who's at EndlessMike03 on Twitter. They write, what's the plan for the new season that dropped like Mad's body from the bunker wormhole?
Oh, burn.
I would say hashtag too soon. But that happened back in 2019, so it's not too soon, Endless Mike. Endless Mike also wrote, this Season 2 Egon arc is awesome. Looking forward to you guys discussing it. Oh, thank you so much, Endless Mike.
Yeah, we just went through it. Endless Mike has been ahead in time, realized that we were going to talk about it.
Endless Mike, and for all you listeners, our plan for Dark Season 2 is going to be a bit different. We had to kind of rush the podcast out to try to get our Season 1 podcast out before Season 2 began. It may not make too much sense, but we're going to talk about 2 episodes at a time weekly. So this is the first podcast. In 1 week, we'll talk about episodes 3 and 4. A week after that, we'll talk about episodes 5 and 6. And a week after that, 7 and 8. And you may be thinking to yourself, I love this show so much. I binged it in one day. I binged it in 1 weekend. I got to wait a month for you guys to talk about the end. Well, we're trying to get other members into the Double T Time Traveler Club. And so we're going to release them 1 a week. So hopefully this can build. And as people catch up, I know people who are just now starting Season 1 of Dark. And so we want everybody to jump in, and it'd really be great. And know that you'll have plenty of time to laugh at all our guesses that turned out to be wrong.
Absolutely. Hey, Bubba, here's some more feedback from W. Axel Foley at W. Axel Foley on Twitter. I gotta watch Dark, Winden Caves. Do you guys watch subtitled or dubbed? We watched dubbed. Now, the first season, Bubba watched it the first time with subtitles, and he's been converted to dubbed.
I have. For this show, let me say that my preference normally when watching a foreign film is to just hear their natural voices and watch it subtitled. And I actually did, the first time I watched Dark Season 1, did watch it with actors German and then with English subtitles. But I knew then that it was tough. I was having to pause it a lot. I was having to rewind a bit if I just happened to look down. Like what could happen in a normal situation is you're sitting at home watching Dark Suddenly, you get a text, you look down for a minute. If you're not up watching the subtitles, you can miss some incredibly important stuff. I personally feel like the dub is okay.
It's pretty good, I think. I don't have the contrast, but I think, as Bubba said, it would be very hard to keep up.
And it's enjoyable either way. Listeners, why don't you write us and tell us how you watch it, and you can join in on the discussion. Everybody know that our good buddy Axel Foley, once again, at WAxelFoley on Twitter, he hosts the Daily DVR podcast. So I bet he's going to start watching Dark and discussing it on his show. Let's see if he's better at pronouncing these names than we are.
You say Helgi, I say Helga.
We got a great bit of feedback on our Facebook page, facebook.com/PHQ, from our good Double T, Double L, Peter in Australia. Peter wrote a long thing on our Facebook page, and that's what's great about Facebook. He wrote, "Time travel shows can mess with your mind. I was thinking about Dark Season 1 today. If Jonas from the future destroyed the cave so time travel stopped, then Jonas from now will grow old without the worry. Except when he gets to be Jonas from the future's age, he won't be able to go back in time and help his younger self. But he also won't be able to go back and destroy the caves. Since he can't go back to destroy the caves, that means the caves won't be destroyed. So does that mean time travel will continue even if Jonas from the future destroys it initially? It gets so confusing trying to work this stuff out. Bubba and Tiny, what do you think? Oh, my Lord."
Well, I mean, I think we have the answer, which is the clockmaker made the time travel machine, and maybe he got that from, I don't know, what are they calling it? Secret God?
The God particle.
Wiggly God?
Peter, I hope that Season 2 is going to talk about it, but you're bringing up great points. Everybody on the Facebook page, you can respond to Peter, and we love listeners having discussions like this. Peter, you described it better than anybody could, and I can't go back in time and try to describe it as well.
We also heard from Belinda at Jet City Girl 1. She says, "My new favorite thing, listening to people try and talk about #dark, LOL. I guess we're included in the try, never give up."
We have a tweet from a Double H.
Hannah Hater.
That's right, and it's not Haughty Marauder. It's from Denise at DRM1125. Katharina and Hannah are both terrible people. Also Ulrich. Such a good show.
So Ulrich is terrible is what she's saying, I guess.
Yes, and Hannah. So we have Hannah haters, we have Katharina crybabies, we have Ulrich. I can't think of a word, but we love it. We have 3 more bits of feedback. And next is another one from Double T Haughty Marauder.
Haughty Marauder. TFW. Tell me what that meant again, Bubba.
The feels when.
The feels when you get called out on a podcast for being a hater. Crying laughy emoji. I agree with Bubba that she's an intriguing character. I really don't hate her. I just wanted to slap her. Every time.
Oh, man. Haughty Marauder, you're going to have to go back in time to Season 1, Episode 6. That was a great slapping episode. Leslie Lambert at LSpaceDiva3 on Twitter wrote, "I'm mostly kidding, but seriously, I just finished Season 1 last night. Need a couple days of happiness break before starting Season 2.
I get it. I totally get it.
The Jonases have broke my heart." Our final bit of feedback comes from Mumco, who's at BG Hotspur on Twitter. They wrote, "I finished Season 1 Friday and will not see Season 2 of Dark before I see Stranger Things Season 3. Whoa, that's kind of laying it down there. Now, Stranger Things comes out from when we're recording this in almost a week, and so you won't have to wait too long to get into Season 2 there. Tiny, if you were like I was, do you think you could stop watching Season 1, come back and start watching Season 2 and have any idea what was going on?
No, for me, to keep everything as straight as I can keep it and try to talk about it, I've kind of had to go straight through.
All right, well, listeners, now we're going to finally dive into these episodes, Season 2, Episode 1, Beginnings and Endings, and Season 2, Episode 2, Dark Matter. The way we're going to talk about them is we're going to talk about the time periods, and we're going to go, as comically as this sounds, in chronological order of the time travels. Meaning we're going to start in 1920, then we're going to jump to 1987, jump to 2020, and end up in 2052 when we discuss these things. Did you have a favorite time period in watching these first 2 episodes, Tiny, of those 4?
Well, I tell you, I grew up in the 80s, or we grew up in the 80s, so I think that it's very easy to be drawn to 1987.
Yes, and it features the version of Egon that I like the best. I may be with you there, but also because we got to know the characters who are now in the 2020 time period, and I do, even when they do terrible things, I do seem to care about them. It's tight between the 80s and 2020 for me. But let's get to where the show begins, the reveal that destroyed Reddit's theories. We start on June 21st, 1920. It's the cave, the infamous cave. We got to get away from this cave. What's interesting, on the outside, we see rails going into the cave. We jump in, there's a man in the cave, and another character we see called young Noah. They are cutting out the tunnel. And I have to be honest, they do a pretty good job considering the tunnel's so square. They're carving out the tunnel. Now, this man in the cave, he has the tattoo on the front of his chest that Noah has on his back. Tiny, what did you think when we finally met young Noah? What do you think of young Noah? Is he just as terrible as old Noah?
I don't know. Young Noah actually reminds me of young Helgi, or 1980s Helgi. Just a little bit easily led, which was so different because we're so used to seeing him really act like he's got everything together, I guess because he's knows what's already going to happen. So it was interesting seeing him more vulnerable.
That's a great call. Not the confident man he sees when he talks to himself, literally. Wrapping up this scene here at the very beginning, the cold open of Season 2, Episode 1, the young Noah believes that the man he's cutting out this tunnel with doesn't believe in the prophecy anymore. And apparently, a mysterious new character named Adam asked young Noah to deal with this man in the cave who has the tattoo on his front. The man tells young Noah, ask Noah why he took you in and why he chose to call you Noah. So Noah isn't even Noah's name.
Well, this reminded me of Star Wars.
Oh, wow.
Well, here is the thing. You're used to watching the first Star Wars, Episode 4, and really hating Darth Vader, thinking that he is the villain of the entire show, the entire movie series. And then, guess what? You find out there's a puppet master who is the Emperor.
Great call.
And so I'm thinking Noah, basically, in this scenario, is Darth Vader, and Adam is the Emperor. And Adam's got the face to match the Emperor description.
Noah ends up killing the man he's been cutting out this cave passage with. Tiny, I'm going to go say it. Maybe it's because 2 minutes into the new season, they destroyed my theory of who Noah was. So I'm going to say it. This man cutting out the tunnel with young Noah is old Bartos.
Oh, there you go. Of course.
Old Bartos is dead. He actually looks more like Bartos than Noah did when I kept predicting Bartos was Noah in season 1. So I have to have a crazy theory. I thought we just saw Bartos' death. He certainly works with Noah, and so when he says it's interesting he would send you, meaning a younger version of the guy who recruited me into this insanity to begin with, but that's my current theory. We later see young Noah once again talking to himself, and his older self says, you'll be comforted and strong when you only choose to listen to ourselves. That's very comical because he says, I'm your inner voice, because they're the same person. Of course, that makes me wonder, where is Adam? If Noah's telling his younger self to only listen to himself, where is this emperor figure, Adam, in this call-out? In fact, the man before young Noah kills him, the man in the cave with the tattoo, I think he's even implying young Noah, hey, ask Adam why he picked you and why he called you Noah. In other words, start questioning Adam is what the person says. And so we'll see if old Noah is still on Adam's team. I'm going to include this scene with Adam in this section on 1920, even though we aren't sure what year it really takes place in. It's in an area that the script apparently called Adam's room. And so Adam is this gross, bald, he looks possibly like he's had radiation poisoning or something figure. And Adam, let's talk what we know about him. He asks old Noah, or the Noah we know, he says, "Did you show Bartos?" And he doesn't suspect anything. He was always naive by nature.
I mean, Bartos is so dumb it took him 2 hours to watch 60 Minutes. I mean, Bartos, that guy is so dumb. I sent him to the cave, right? And he brought with him a solar-powered flashlight. See, you need light to power a solar-powered flashlight. He couldn't see it. He's in a cave. This guy's dumb, people. Bartos, he went to the dentist to get a Bluetooth. Oh, yeah. Bartos, I mean, he's not smart, folks. I mean, listen to me. Bartos is so stupid, he stared at a cup of orange juice for 12 hours because it said concentrate. I had to put a password on the time machine. Okay, so I put a password on the time machine. Bartos saw it. It said the password needed 8 characters, so he typed Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Bartos, and he loves my girl Martha. He really does. He doesn't get it, Bartos. He stuck a phone up his butt because he thought he was going to make a booty call. I got 33 years worth of these jokes, folks. Sick Mundus crowds are the best crowds in the world.
So Adam knows Bartos, at least. The apocalypse must come to pass is the one thing they keep arguing about. They mentioned it's the beginning of the last cycle, and Noah listens to Adam, who tells him, "Noah, you got to find the missing pages, the infamous missing pages in this diary, which theoretically records everything that ever happened in this cycle of years." Any thoughts on Adam, our creepy emperor figure, and or any guesses who Adam might be?
You know, I don't. And I think you're going to talk about this because it happened later in the episode or even in episode 2, but I like to jump around as a TT.
Time traveler.
You know, I think about Adam and Noah in that like class photo they took, the black and white class photo that Elizabeth finds. And I think, they don't seem like the type of guys who are going to take a class photo and put it in a book for safekeeping. So, I don't know. I just found that a little bit bizarre.
Well, Tiny, you brought up my other great prediction, possibly great, possibly pointless, of when Season 3 will take place. On the back of that photo of Adam and, you assume, Adam's disciples, is the date January 8th, 1921. So I'm thinking to myself, obviously in dark, you're on a set date, in a set day. Meaning if it's June 21st in 1920, it's also June 21st in 1987, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the only way they can get to January is if somehow that's where Season 3 takes place. That's around the time, about 6 months ahead. Currently, we find out that we're about 8 months ahead from kind of all the dates we saw in the first season.
When does it stop? I mean, we're in this lunar cycle, or I don't know how they described it, something like that. But when is it over?
Well, I heard one character say it's over after it's been done 33 times. Ooh, that's terrible if you have to live through this existence 33 times.
Yeah, but does it last the year 33 times? Separated by 33 years?
Whew. I don't want to know. Let's jump to our next time period. Your favorite time period, Tiny, 1987. Now, because this takes place in episode 2, we're on June 22nd, and let's talk about our characters there. We have Regina, Claudia, and Egon, the Tiedemann family. And Egon is afraid to tell his daughter that he's suffering. He wants to tell her that he's suffering from what I believe is fatal cancer, but he can't. She is obsessed because she has just found her dog that even her father, Egon, is mentioning, hey, this looks like the dog you had when you were a kid. And then her daughter, Regina, leaves without saying goodbye to her mom. Regina and Alexander are falling in love. They have a slight little cute moment. The mom has a bunch of discussions with herself, meaning Claudia from 87 meets Claudia from the future. Claudia from the future explains, well, hey, how did that dog, which just seemed to chase a stick into the cave, how did it get into the tunnel and travel through time? Apparently, older Claudia did it because, why? She knew it happened. She remembered it happening. Claudia tells her younger self, you must stop Adam. Claudia gives her younger self the time machine in the craziest way ever. She uses it for as long as she needs to use it, then buries it in the place where her daughter's house will be built, or her daughter herself, her own house will be built. And in 1987, Claudia digs out the time machine her older self left for her. Ogdy, Ogdy, Ogdy. Are you still on Team Claudia over Team Noah? What is your thoughts about these different versions of Claudia?
Of course I'm on Team Claudia. Older Claudia has obviously put in more work than anybody else on this whole deal. You know, my favorite thing about that whole interaction that I found so funny is at the end, older Claudia tells younger Claudia just a little bit of parenting advice. You know, Regina's not going to be, you don't have much time with Regina. And so I thought that was really funny. Stop Adam, save the world, and don't forget to spend some quality time with Regina.
Let's talk about Egon. Egon finds out he has cancer, as possibly anybody would want to do at the end of their life. He wants to kind of settle things. He's 8 months earlier, he was on the police force. He was dealing with Mad's disappearance. And so he starts looking through his old cases. He's thinking about Mad's being disappeared. He looks in his old notebook, which says, why did Helga take the long way home after being a guard at the plant? He goes to see Helga. Helga, after being his brains beat in by a rock when he was a kid, and after being hit by a car by his older self, Helga's still not doing well. Not 1987 Helga. He knows that he's been following the White Devil, who I believe he's referring to as Noah, but Helga's no help. So where does he turn next? Egon decides to go see that prisoner they arrested back in 1953. And this was, I gotta say, this was tough to see. I mentioned when we were watching season 1 that because it was a rewatch for me, when I kept seeing everything just become worse and worse and worse, I was like cackling at how terrible it was becoming. But in these episodes, my hands kept going to my head about, oh no, this is terrible. Seeing Ulrich as an old man in the nut house, which is what I assume he's in, oh, that was tough.
So Ulrich is an old man in the nut house, while younger Ulrich is a teenager scrapping again with Egon over this rape accusation. It's really just crazy to put your mind around all of that.
And even oldest Ulrich here in 1987 still remembers how those kind of heavy metal lyrics upset Egon, and he's still quoting them to Egon. It's like, hey, here's a hit, buddy. We're the same person. Tiny, you asked if this was actually the actor who plays Ulrich in old age makeup. No, this was a third actor, a Polish actor they found to come in. And to me, he really looks like an old Ulrich. He looks
like he's got that chin dimple on his chin that looks just like middle-aged Ulrich. It's uncanny.
It is really uncanny. I've already mentioned it. I want Egon to somehow save the day. Egon's my hero. Of course, he may not have much time left, but he's who I'm rooting for. How did you feel about this story? Did you feel terrible seeing old Ulrich? Any thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I felt terrible. I was surprised that Ulrich had, obviously he doesn't like Egon, but you would think maybe, right? He would tell Egon something. At this point, has Mikkel been taken yet? I have no idea if Mikkel has been taken.
Well, Mikkel probably hasn't even been born in 1987 yet. So, really, boy, I don't know what Ulrich could do at this point, other than just telling him got him thrown in the nut house.
Well, it was funny. Remember, the nurses said they called him the investigator. So I'm wondering if we're going to see him again and find out how he got that name.
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love it. Even though he did some terrible things, I am somehow still also on Team Ulrich. The final thing that happened in 87, I don't know how impactful it was plot-wise, but to me it was very impactful emotionally. That was seeing young Mikkel. 8 months he's been trapped in the 80s. He's really doing poor. He knows it's his real mom's birthday. Sure enough, later that day, his real mom, who is a teenage punk, elbows him going into school. He's having an emotional crisis. He's out in the woods. He skips school, goes out to the woods, hears a noise, thinks, aha, maybe the time portal's opening. And who stops him? But my most hated character of all, Noah. Noah seemingly can't have Mikkel change this time loop either. And so Mikkel returns home to his new mother, Inez, and they have a touching hug, which ends up being witnessed by his future wife, Hannah, and his super future son, Jonas. How did you feel about Mikkel's dilemma, which seemingly hasn't improved 8 months later?
I'm wondering if there's actually a town in Winden. It seems like the only destination for people to go is the woods. I'm just wondering if there's any place they congregate other than the school occasionally.
I tell you, nobody ever leaves a house. Inez's house becomes Mikkel's house, becomes Jonas's house.
Right, and the same with Ulrich's house, right?
Exactly right, exactly right. I happen to love, here I was saying my love for 1987 Egon. I also love 1987 Inez. I think she's great. She's certainly a great mother.
She is. She's great. And we really don't know her in 2019, 2020 at all. So to see this soft side to her, and again, we still don't even know what the riff is between her and Hannah. So that's interesting and something to be answered.
Jumping to our third time period, June 21st and June 22nd of 2020. But this has a special kind of caveat, too. It's 6 days to the apocalypse. Ooh, that doesn't sound good. So let's jump through our 4 families we've been focusing on here. I think the first one I want to focus on is the Nielsen family. Really, there are only 3 of them left. Mother, Katharina, has pretty much gone off the deep end, losing a child forever, losing your husband forever, certainly can't help. She has somehow found Ulrich's notes that he left out and realizes it has something to do with the cave. She seems to be the originator of the caves map that Jonas used, if you ask me, but she's spending all her time searching the caves in what I assume has to be a fruitless search. Her 2 remaining children, Magnus and Martha, are doing the best they can.
Let's be honest, they didn't have a lot of supervision in the first place, so, they're probably going to be okay on their own. Katharina might be onto something. At least she's got something to do.
Any chance Katharina actually succeeds or finds somebody traveling time, can somehow get back to her husband, get back to her son? What do you think?
I'm going to go with no.
All right, so Magnus is in some ways repeating his steps from season 1. He's now officially in a relationship with his girlfriend, Francesca Doppler, but he's always been suspicious of her. In season 1, he followed her up high and saw her go to the place on the railroad tracks where she was getting money. He later found her necklace next to a dirty old mattress there under the tracks. This year, we get the payoff to that. It's not that Francesca is turning tricks for money to get out of that town she hates. Francesca has been stealing her father, Peter's, prescription pad and been giving hormone therapy to Bene, the sex worker. And when Magnus's mind gets terrible and accuses his girlfriend of being a prostitute, that is one terrible way to end a relationship.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to walk back from that. Francesca, honestly, that was, not the most interesting turn as to what it could have been for all the build-up around the money and him going there and everything like that.
Yeah, I love that Magnus just has his one lookout spot there from the identical spot high above the bridge and looking down at the railroad tracks, because he later sees Bene going there. He tracks Benny down to his trailer where he's turning tricks. He walks into Benny's thing, and it may have been one of the few times that Dark actually made me laugh. Having Magnus go in and being told Bene's rates and services, that did make me laugh, even if it destroyed another one of my theories. Bene is not young Bartos or Magnus either.
Yeah, or Noah or Adam. I'm going to just basically take those off the table for you, Bubba.
One of my crazy theories has to work. I should point out another thing that made me laugh, even though there wasn't anything particularly funny about it. There's this cop with the eye patch, Waller. It turns out he's Bene's brother. And when the two of them were together, that made me giggle for some reason, seeing these two together. I first thought, oh no, Waller's been going to see Bene for service.
Well, we've been trying to figure out what his purpose was, right? I think we're still trying to figure him out. We don't really know what's going on with him.
He just seems to be helping our next family we're going to talk about, meaning the Tiedemann family, specifically Alexander Tiedemann, hide that waste from the slight meltdown that happened at the plant in 1986. They moved it out of the cave and have left it in this truck, and now they're going to move it from the truck back to the nuclear plant and then bury it in concrete.
Trucks feels like a safe place to put it.
Well, hey, Waller, just take these barrels and put them somewhere. Oh, I know. My brother has a trailer where
Yeah, I think that's how the section of I-85 burned down in Atlanta that time. Somebody parked a truck like that underneath the interstate.
So talking about the Tiedemann family, I mentioned Alexander. He is closing down the nuclear power plant. I think that's probably for the best. And he's going to bury all this waste in cement. His wife, Regina, is going through the worst.
Oh, she looks terrible.
Oh, it's so terrible. And somebody I always had trouble rooting for, Bartos. Obviously, Bartos, however you say it. He's being very affected by whatever evil things Noah's making him do, but also his mother having this issue. Bartos and Martha split up. I say good.
Yeah, heartbreaker, right? They seem so meant to be.
Real quickly, let's go to the Doppler family themselves. And this was something that I actually enjoyed as a bit of happiness in this ray of light. And that is that Peter Doppler and his wife, Charlotte, the cop, seem to be working together in their relationship, if not husband and wife perfect. They at least seem to be on the same side as they're trying to solve, down in the infamous bunker, they're trying to solve the time travel mess.
I agree. It's fun seeing them communicate and being on the same team and working together on something.
Now, Charlotte, I don't know what you would do. And I guess I'll pose the question because I don't know what you would do. Charlotte knows that this case, what's going on, is supernatural. She has realized that Ulrich has traveled through time. You're theoretically the head of the police looking into all these missing persons. Can you go to anybody and say, I think I've located at least one of the missing persons. He's back in 1953. Can you go to his family, his wife, and say, I think I found your husband? I mean, what do you do?
I don't think she can do any of that. I think she's doing the best that she can. Bubba, what do you think about the newcomer in this episode?
Oh, Clausen, the task force of one.
Elephant Man. How many different ways are there to look at an elephant? I tell you what, if I was in that meeting and my kid was missing, he started talking about the views of an elephant, I would have gone much crazier than that crowd.
Yeah, well, I love that poor Eric Oppendorf's father, who is a father of a missing child, called him out and said, yeah, if I need to find an elephant, I'll use you, buddy. Otherwise, help find my son. Now, of course, we know that his son was taken through time and his dead body left in 1953, so there's no happy ending there. But I actually liked seeing Eric's father again. I thought that was nice.
What do you think about Clausen is his name?
Yeah.
What do you think about, now
the task force Clausen.
Yes, so now we said that Charlotte can't really disclose to everybody, but if you were Clausen, would you believe that right before Ulrich went missing and he left her a voicemail, it would have been wrong number?
No, that doesn't make any sense. You would save it. Even if somehow Ulrich called and said, oh, Charlotte, I called you. I meant to call somebody else. Who deletes voicemails nowadays? If later Ulrich goes missing, which he does, there's no way you delete that. There's no way you dismiss it. If I'm Clausen, I want to hear it. But this case is so crazy. I think Clausen, I don't know if he knows anything or not. I don't know if he's a time traveler. But if he isn't, any bit of investigating into this case is going to turn up how strange it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I just thought he bought that way too easy.
He did. Real quickly, the youngest daughter, Elizabeth Doppler, was with her father, Peter, and they were in her mother's grandfather's clock shop where Elizabeth found the picture of Noah. She turns it in. Uh-oh, not good. But now they actually have a picture, not just that practically perfect drawing of Noah, but now Charlotte and Peter and her team. I'm on another team.
Graduating class of 1921.
I'm on team Charlotte too. So I'm really excited about that. Now Charlotte she can't stonewall the investigation that Task Force Clausen is doing, but she doesn't seem to be invested in it. But then she goes to see Regina. He wants to see Regina, who saw Ulrich the day he disappeared. Regina doesn't have much to say, but she does have the box that the stranger version of Jonas, his stuff. When Charlotte sees that box, oh boy, trouble, trouble, trouble.
Well, it seems like she set it out for them to look at, but then waited until Clausen asked her what else she wanted to disclose. eagle eye looking at lots of different views of the elephants. I mean, there was a huge box on the coffee table. I mean, I would have led with that. But again, I'm no police work person, so I probably can't judge.
Well, we were talking while we were watching these episodes, Tiny, about why in the world Regina waited to turn this box over. Now, admittedly, she's got the biggest thing she's going through, meaning she's got the health crisis of a lifetime, and so it's not like she wasn't busy, but this is 8 months later to finally say, hey, there's 6 people missing in this town. Here's some weird stuff I found.
You know what? I thought about later. We know that the hotel is struggling. Could it be that she didn't want the hotel to become ground zero for Spookville in Winden? That's the Caves job.
Competition. Good old competition.
Yeah,
for the hotel.
who's going to want to go stay at the hotel? Again, I don't know why anyone would visit Winden to begin with, other than to hike through the woods. But maybe that was the reason. Maybe it was thinking about the business.
All right, let's get to the final family we got to talk about, and that's, of course, Jonas Kahnwald's family, which is really now just his mom, Hannah. She had lost her husband to suicide. She lost the love of her life to his betrayal, Ulrich leaving her, and of course he's disappeared, and then her son has disappeared. Hannah has had this gun before. Remember, it's the gun that she found from Alexander when he left it in 1986, and she's about to kill herself when who walks in? The stranger, older version of Jonas. This, when I first saw it, was the only thing I really didn't like, because I didn't understand why stranger version of Jonas suddenly appeared and started saying these things, unless it's possible he was paying attention and knew his mom might kill herself, and so he had to do something to stop it. Why is older Jonas showing her time travel?
Yeah, and why is he taking her? She already believed him that he was from the future. Why take her back and make her look at middle school Mikkel?
I don't know. It was a very strong, kind of emotional moment for her to see that her husband is actually Ulrich's son. That realization was strong. Her hugging Jonas and Jonas finally getting some love, I think, was a nice moment. Her seeing all the scars on poor future Jonas's back was nice. But I still don't understand future Jonas's, a.k.a. stranger Jonas's, why he's doing this. One thing he did do is that he introduced us to the new time travel way. And what he says, so remember at the end of the first season, he set off the device because he thought it was going to stop everything. All it seems to have done, according to him, is shut down the tunnel in the cave. And now to travel through time, you actually have to use the time machine in the God particle. But otherwise, even though it had some nice emotional moments, I'm not sure what future Jonas, stranger Jonas, is, why he's doing this with his mom.
So when Noah captured Jonas, he must have known he was going to spring forward to 2052.
And now it's 8 months later, so that'll be our third time period. Let's get to it, 2053. This is possibly in some ways the easiest to talk about because it really only features 3 characters, and only 2 of them have names. Number 1 is our protagonist, Jonas. Number 2 is older version of Elizabeth Doppler, who seems to be the leader of this post-apocalyptic society. And the third character, who currently doesn't have a name, she was the very last new character we met in Season 1, Episode 10, when she took her gun and smashed Jonas in the face and said, "Welcome to the future." I'm going to call her Scarface.
She's got to be somebody interesting. I don't
so.
know why, Bubba, you keep trying to match all these mismatched people as the future and the past versions of one another. We really need to figure out who this sidekick to Elizabeth is.
Right. Listeners, while we were watching these 2 episodes and Charlotte's talking about, why did my grandfather, a.k.a. the clockmaker, never tell me who my parents were? And I suddenly thought, who are some couples who are still together? I thought, wait a minute. There's Jonas and Scarface. And they're really only together because of Jonas's journey. Let's talk to it. Jonas lives in this future time. He lives in his old house. Boy, we don't talk about the effects much, but I love the way post-apocalyptic Winden look in his house, how it was destroyed, how it looked. He gets up each day, seems to go to the bunker and listen to audio cassettes from Claudia explaining everything that's happened. He finds out that, inside the old plant is the God particle, and it needs electricity. If you can stabilize the God particle, you can use it to travel through time 33 years. Of course, people who go to look at the God particle, who claim, oh, it's God, it's help us, it's the Savior, Elizabeth is hanging and killing those people in 2053. Jonas doesn't care. He doesn't care about anything. He wants to save his friends. He knows the apocalypse is going to happen to them in just 6 days. And so he causes a distraction to get some fuel, to get the generator. He goes, he gets caught trying to sneak into the plant. Elizabeth literally hangs him, and then at the last minute decides, you know what, I'll let him live. Why does Elizabeth save Jonas from the fate all the other people have got?
Do you think she remembers him?
I think that has to be it. And so if Jonas is there, I think even though he broke the rule, and in her rules, everybody who goes in there should be killed, I guess my thought is just that even she's holding on to a glimmer of hope. Does she believe or not believe in this prophecy that everybody keeps talking about? I can't remember.
She must have some other agenda we're not aware of yet. Her agenda right now seems anti-God particle or anti-look at the God particle, but what does she want people to do instead?
Maybe she just doesn't want anybody to travel through time and mess up things worse than they are, which, Elizabeth, if that's your plan, I agree with it.
Yeah, that's not a bad goal, I guess. But, I mean, how much worse could things get? I mean...
Ugh, I don't know. But all right, you want more crazy theory, Tiny?
Of course.
Okay, so how are we introduced to 2053? It's in a dream Jonas is having. Now, Jonas is having a dream, having sex with Martha. So this brings up a bunch of things. Jonas wakes up. Jonas is seemingly still in love with Martha, his aunt. How do you feel about either of those thoughts?
I mean, the options in Winden are not broad. I mean, Martha does seem to be the hottest thing going there.
The only thing, especially since Francisca has taken Elizabeth in 2020 is a bit too young. Yeah, okay. Jonas didn't have many options. All right. Are you surprised he still has a crush on his aunt?
No, I don't think so. I mean, even though he knows she's his aunt, to him, she's still a high school kid his age.
Oh, so tough. I always feel so bad for Jonas. But this, okay, my crazy theory, let's get to it. What's one thing we know Noah has done? Noah has given young Elizabeth a watch that says, to Charlotte, a.k.a. Noah gave a watch to Charlotte. Is it possible that Noah and Martha are Charlotte's parents?
No.
Crazy theories, we love them. Listeners, if you're only, and we say only up to episode 2 of season 2, go ahead and send us your crazy crackpot theories. My final 2 questions for you, Tiny, are, number 1, where in the world, I'm sure we're about to find out, but where in the world do you imagine Jonas has gone to once he stepped into the God particle?
Where in the world or when in the world?
Oh, sorry. Let me cross that out here on the headline of the paper. You're exactly right. When?
I'm going to guess 1920s. It's the only place he hasn't been yet. So why not send him there?
He hasn't been to the 50s yet.
All right. Doo-wop.
But, Tiny, I actually agree with you. I think it makes the most sense now that they've introduced 33 years future from where we've been, 33 years prior to the earliest we've been. I think that would be a logical place for him to finally meet young Noah. My last question, and it's a question for all you listeners. We can't say it enough. We only do these podcasts because we love our interaction with you. Write us on Twitter and Instagram at DoublePHQ and go to Facebook.com/DoublePHQ. Tell us your answer to this question. Without spoilers, please. We've only watched the first 2 episodes. Are you still on Team Jonas? And I'll explain why I'm asking this question. There is a part of me that is beginning to think, Jonas, quit while you're behind. I'm worried that in constantly trying to fix things, there's a chance Jonas could be making things worse, and worse. And so even though I love Jonas, I've always been on Team Jonas, there's a part of me that really, really, really is afraid of what he may accidentally do.
But it gets back to what you said before. Can he even change anything anyway? So, I mean, we might as well go along for the ride. I'm Team Jonas.
All right. Once again, write us on Twitter and Instagram or our Facebook page. Are you Team Jonas, or have you flipped over to Team Noah? Are you on Katharina, Team Martha, Team Bartos, any team, and every team? Team Helga?
Team Hannah.
Team Hannah. Right, we need some Team Hannah people. We want you to be a double T
time traveler.
So please help us promote Winden Caves podcast. Tell your friends, tweet it on social media, talk about it on Facebook, point all your dark friends to us. For everybody here at Double P Media, doublepmedia.com, my name's Bubba.
And I'm Tiny.
And we'll see you next time you enter the Winden Caves.